Arthur, does it help to have someone to talk to?
How could a Joker movie without Batman possibly work? 2019's Joker, directed by Todd Phillips and starring Joaquin Phoenix, answers that question with a simple twist on the classic villain, by making the Joker an accidental anti-hero who inspires the downtrodden people of Gotham to rise up against Wall Street fat cats and the fascists in City Hall. Joker doesn't need Batman because this time, he's the hero. The villains of this movie are poverty, neglect, and oppression. Yes, we live in a society, Joker expounds, a society that stinks and we should burn it to the ground. Arthur Fleck's plight is all too believable. A clown for hire by day, Fleck cares for his sickly mother in their rundown apartment and half-heartedly tries to flirt with his neighbor down the hall, played by Zazie Beetz. He doesn't know his father, but he has plenty of surrogates, from the coworker who gives him a gun with which to protect himself to the late-night TV host Murray Franklin, played by Robert De Niro. Fleck fantasizes about fatherly hugs and paternal admissions like, "I'd give this all up to have a son like you," from Murray. But Arthur Fleck is not well. Although he functions somewhat normally thanks to a regular cornucopia of pills, the would-be comedian who writes jokes in a notebook filled with scribbled-on pornography but has never told one on a stage is no stranger to four white walls and a straitjacket. He meets with a social worker, but he suspects she doesn't actually listen to anything he says. Add to that mix a neurological condition or maybe an early life head injury that causes him to sporadically burst into painfully uncontrollable laughter, usually at the worst possible times. This is a version of Joker we have never seen before. There have been origin stories, but rarely have the details of his life, from his real name to his immediate family members, been so explicitly laid out. Fleck doesn't start out bad in this movie. In fact, he's legitimately trying to be good. But the vaguely early 1980s Gotham we explore here is not kind to good people. Sanitation workers are on strike and garbage piles up around the city. Gangs of teenagers and squads of Wall Street douchebags find a common object for their aggression: soul-crushed, sad saps like Arthur Fleck. And as the social programs that provide Fleck his meds get cut, Fleck's sanity degrades in kind. His reality, and thus our perspective on the movie's world, as Fleck is the sole viewpoint character, break down along with him. Joaquin Phoenix's turn as the clown prince of crime joins the growing list of career-defining Joker performances, gleefully matching predecessors like Jack Nicholson, Mark Hamill, Heath Ledger, and others in sheer joyful lunacy. But Phoenix's Joker brings something that no previous version has had: humanity. Fleck turned Joker isn't simply an insane foil for Batman or a naturalistic force of chaos. He's a man who was born with the deck stacked against him, nudged and shoved endlessly toward an inevitable explosion of violent self-acceptance. Fleck is absolutely a bad guy, but even as he embraces his new persona and the bodies start to pile up, you might find yourself rooting for him regardless. That's because, despicable as he might be, undeniably, Joker has a point. Like De Niro's own character in Taxi Driver, society has done more than abandon him. It never gave a shit about him in the first place. There's a discomfort to that. You might squirm in your seat as Fleck crosses line after line. He commits unspeakable crimes, the kinds that we see in real-life headlines seemingly every other day. And the scariest thing is that throughout the movie, many of these acts seem justified. Joker humanizes a murderer in a way that might make the kinds of disenfranchised real-world mass killers we now see regularly salivate, or in the worst possible scenario, provide them inspiration. It's powerful and potentially controversial, which is part of what makes this movie essential viewing right now. The movie's Martin Scorsese influence is undeniable. Joker can accurately be described as equal parts Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, but director Todd Phillips also cites other movies from the same period, from Dog Day Afternoon to A Clockwork Orange. Joker has far more in common with those classics than its contemporaries in the superhero genre. If you removed the Joker entirely from this movie, and this was simply a film about a murderous clown who goes off his meds, it could honestly work just as well. Despite that, the movie's character-focused, socially relevant framework is the perfect fit for this particular incarnation of the Joker. And nothing about it feels forced. There are moments when it seems like the movie is getting a little bit too cute, but it always draws back the curtain a little bit further to reveal another twist waiting just off stage. Todd Phillips was recently cited in Empire magazine saying Joker, quote, doesn't follow anything from the comics. But the director has insisted since that he was misquoted or maybe he misspoke. During a Q&A recently in Los Angeles, he insisted that what he actually said, or what he meant to say, was that Joker doesn't follow any particular comics storyline. What it does is take what it needs from various sources, like the chilling laugh, which Joaquin Phoenix makes very much his own, leave some things behind, like Joker's rictus grin, the Nolan-era facial scars. Those are nowhere to be seen in this movie. And it adds a whole bunch of its own, like Fleck loves to dance, and he often does so with weird gyrations that are rendered totally unsettling by Joaquin Phoenix's emaciated body. He lost a ton of weight for this role. Joker actually is not, in fact, completely disconnected from the comic. Brett Collins' Thomas Wayne is a well-known face, albeit not shown in the favorable light with which we usually see him, which is from his son's rose-tinted perspective. And there are a couple of more familiar presences, but I won't spoil who they are. Prior to seeing this movie, it was difficult to imagine a Joker without Batman, because the Jokers we've grown to love over the years all existed as a chaotic evil counterpoint to Bruce Wayne's unwavering lawful good. This movie succeeds without equivocation because it transforms the villain into the populist anti-hero we need him to be right now. Joker wears its influences on its sleeves, but it also carves its own bloody path through the landscape of contemporary comic book movies, offering something that, despite teetering on the shoulders of 80 years of history, is wonderfully fresh, dangerously exciting, and undeniably entertaining. It is rock solid in its artistry. It might make you uncomfortable, and it will no doubt stay with you long after the curtains close. That's because great movies often do. Stay tuned to GameSpot for more coverage of the movies, TV shows, and games you love.